Illusion and liberation: the essence of isolation in modern organizations, and path to escape. Modern organizations should ideally serve as platforms for multicultural diversity and collaboration. However, reality often fails to meet this ideal. Imbalances in gender ratios, exclusion of minority groups, and the duality of informal communication operate secretly within organizational cultures, causing significant psychological isolation and at times leading to complete exclusion. What is the true nature of this social isolation, and how can individuals overcome it? This article combines Buddhist concepts of temptation, desire, suffering, and liberation with the social dynamics of modern organizations to offer practical insights for escaping the illusion of isolation. 1. The blind spot of temptation: the illusion of communication in organizations. Modern professionals face informal communication flowing beyond the walls of their offices. Scenes where colleagues form separate group chats for sharing work-related updates or personal stories are common. While this may appear to symbolize unity, it simultaneously resonates with exclusion for the marginalized. This phenomenon evokes Buddhist reflections on temptation, asada, which refers to the attractive elements embedded in the 5 clinging aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness. Temptation provides temporary satisfaction but often seeds isolation. For example, in a department dominated by a specific gender, the minority might experience exclusion when not invited into group chats. This reveals the paradox of temptation. Temptation itself is a seed of isolation, while the desire for belonging pushes individuals further from it. Modern individuals must remain vigilant against organizational temptations, as they often foster internal duality and exclusion rather than genuine social cohesion. 2. The nature of suffering: psychological impacts of isolation. On the opposite side of temptation lies suffering, adinita. Buddhism emphasizes that while temptation offers temporary pleasure, it is inherently unstable and painful. Isolation in organizations emerges from this duality of temptation and suffering. Professionals excluded from informal communication due to their pursuit of it experience the following forms of suffering. Incomplete social cognition: the ability to interpret colleagues' emotions, language, and behavioral patterns diminishes, fostering misunderstanding and alienation. Lowered self-esteem: exclusion generates doubt in self-worth and negatively affects job performance. Erosion of trust: the dual structure of formal and informal communication weakens the foundation of trust within the organization. This suffering is not merely a fleeting emotion but a profound emotional depth akin to the Buddhist concept of suffering. Isolation transcends organizational issues, reflecting the inherent imperfection of human existence. 3. The path to liberation: practices for releasing attachments. Escaping the cycle of temptation and suffering requires the path of liberation, naya. Buddhism suggests recognizing temptation, acknowledging suffering, and ultimately releasing attachments to achieve liberation. This insight can be applied practically within modern organizations. 1. Recognition of temptation. The first step toward liberation is awareness of attachment to informal communication. For example, instead of viewing participation in colleagues' group chats as essential, one must recognize that it does not define one's value. Temptation offers temporary satisfaction, but genuine belonging arises from within. 2. Acceptance of suffering. Rather than suppressing the pain of isolation, it is essential to recognize and accept it. Instead of condemning emotions, analyzing their roots in attachments is crucial. Questions such as "why do I compulsively want to join informal communication?" can reveal emotional truths. 3. Releasing attachments. The core of liberation lies in letting go of attachments. Viewing organizational isolation as a structural limitation rather than a personal weakness can reduce psychological burdens. If informal communication serves as a tool for exclusion, strategies like sharing opinions through formal channels or building independent networks become necessary. 4. 5-step practical strategy for alleviating isolation in organizations. Practical strategies grounded in the principles of Buddhist liberation include: 1. Self-reflection. Question what temptations, e.g., belonging, acknowledgement, underlie my social isolation. Practice spend 10 minutes daily journaling to organize emotions and analyze sources of attachment. 2. Communication mapping analysis. Question can I understand the flow of informal communication and the limitations of formal channels? Practice map primary communication routes within the department and request formal feedback. For example, present opinions clearly in meetings and document them. 3. Building a trust network. Question is trust buildable through formal communication? Practice propose one-on-one collaborations with colleagues or begin sharing professional materials to enhance trust. 4. Emotional detachment. Question how can I recognize that exclusion from informal communication does not define my value? Practice use meditation or brainstorming techniques to separate emotions from thoughts. For example, focus on work planning instead of viewing group chats. 5. Liberated action. Question what actions, free from attachment, can create positive effects in the organization. Practice initiate proposals for improving inclusive culture or launching mentoring programs to lead organizational change. Evolution from isolation to liberation. Modern organizations deeply root themselves in the Buddhist structure of temptation, suffering, liberation. The temptation of informal communication may offer momentary satisfaction, but as it repeats, the pain of isolation intensifies. However, liberation depends on individual will and action. Viewing organizational isolation as a structural limitation rather than personal weakness and applying liberated strategies can lead to genuine social emancipation. These insights extend beyond organizational survival, guiding philosophical growth to transcend the fundamental suffering of human existence.